Hi, my name's Adam Smith, and it's a real pleasure to speak to you today. I want to tackle a really tricky question today, something that I think is at the heart of why a lot of people who attempt a more digitally minimalistic approach to their life ultimately end up failing. They delete their apps, they adjust their relationships successfully, they suspend their accounts, and for a while they feel the joy of missing out, as I call it. They feel the sense that there's something to this idea that we need to readjust our relationships, especially to things like algorithmically focused social media or to the endless scroll. However, after a while, they find themselves bored. They find that they just don't know what to do with these chunks of time that previously were devoted to something that, for all its faults, was pretty good at giving a constant dopamine hit, a constant cycle of small satisfactions, something that probably on a surface level felt good, felt fulfilling, even though actually when we reflect and try to think about how we're going to live our lives in a way that aligns with our values and helps us to reach our long-term goals was not perhaps the best way to spend that time. One of the reasons why I found myself pushed into digital minimalism was the realization that I actually had a lot of time. I previously considered myself very, very busy. I teach. I love my job. It consumes a lot of my time and focus. However, when I was spending my times after work doomscrolling, that was time which was free for me. I wasn't doing anything else with it. I wasn't at work. I wasn't thinking about work. I wasn't working. I was at home. I was on the train. I was at the coffee shop. I was places where I was free to choose what I wanted to do with my time. And some days I was spending like 4, 5, 6 hours just looking at those algorithmically driven feeds. The endless scroll was endless, and I was subject to it. I was selling my attention to these big tech companies, and once I reflected on it, I realized that it did not align with what I wanted to do with my life. The problem then becomes, okay, actually, one of the sort of joys that you realize going through this digital minimalism journey is like, I suddenly have these huge blocks of time. Like I've regained through reducing my screen time a whole lot of non-screen time. But because we've all grown up in this kind of world, we've all had smartphones in our lives for at least the last decade, and we've all had the internet in our lives for longer, we don't really know what to do with ourselves in the time that is not spent in front of a screen anymore. Unless we intentionally develop things to do in that time, we are always going to find ourselves going back to the easy, dopamine fulfilling hits that social media offers to us. So I have sat down and I have come up with a list of 12 things that you can do if you want to try and replace the time in your life that was previously devoted to basically doing absolutely nothing, being a passive consumer of social media and getting that quick dopamine release, but not ultimately feeling like you are working towards something meaningful. Okay, so now that my phone is boring, and it is boring, it doesn't have any apps on it that are not entirely functional and completely dull to look at. I quite often still feel the urge to pick it up, unlock it, and then go, what am I going to do? Look at the weather? Like, no, come on, Adam, turn it off, put it down, do something useful. So what am I doing instead? I think number one is probably what you expect me to say. It's reading. Reading is like good in and of itself. It's an end in itself, great. It increases our focus. It helps us to rewire our brains to appreciate a more kind of slow imbibing of knowledge that is very different to what we receive from short form videos. It trains our brain to understand the way that others think and write and organize their thoughts, and then in doing so we're able to organize our thoughts and ultimately become better writers and thinkers ourselves. But it's also just joyous. I realized watching through some old videos that I use the word joy a lot on this channel, and that's because joy is really important. It's really important to read books that we enjoy. It's really important to go out and discover which genre it is that makes you happy and gives you a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment, that creates drama that your brain really, really loves. For me, I used to be very dismissive of genre fiction, and if you've seen behind me in some of my videos, you might have spotted a huge amount of fantasy novels that I've been thoroughly enjoying over the last few years. Brandon Sanderson, Robert Jordan, J.R.R. Tolkien, Joe Abercrombie. These are all fantastic authors who I thoroughly enjoy. For you, it might be something completely different. I've also really enjoyed historical fiction, crime fiction. I've enjoyed reading the classics, reading poetry. I read a lot of non-fiction, and I listen to a lot of non-fiction on my commute in my car. I listen to self-help books. I listen to philosophy books. I listen to travel books. I listen to books about periods of history of which I'm interested or not yet interested or knowledgeable enough. It is an absolute pleasure to be able to say that I read on average 1, 2, sometimes 3 books a month. That's a lot to be getting through, and that is all time that I have reclaimed from my phone. At first, it was challenging to read a page, and then it was okay, and then it was challenging to read a chapter, and then it got to the stage where I can quite happily sit in my bed and read at night just before I go to bed, something which I can never do before. I literally switch off, turn off the power on my laptop before I get into bed now, get my Kindle out, get my book out, whatever it is, and sit there and read, which is just really, really good. Okay, number 2, I want to talk to you about cooking. So cooking is something that I think has a very broad definition, because cooking can cover anything from like whacking a Rustler's burger in the microwave to creating like a full-on gourmet meal that's going to take you an entire day. I'm talking about having a repertoire of recipes that use whole foods, like that use ingredients rather than come pre-packaged and pre-processed, things that embrace seasonality and that change throughout the year, things that you cook every single day. I eat the same breakfast every day. It's a couple of eggs, some tomatoes, some source of protein, and some sort of cheese, and it brings me pleasure every single day. And when I'm eating that, I'm not scrolling on my phone. I might occasionally have the radio on or be listening to a podcast or an audiobook. Occasionally I will watch a YouTube video. Sometimes I don't do anything at all. I just open the door to my garden and listen to the birds out there. So cooking is one of those things that you get better at over time, that benefits you bodily. Like, it is a lot easier to cook a healthy meal than it is to go on Deliveroo or Postmates or whatever it is and find a healthy meal that's going to be delivered to you. And it's something that creates a tangible good at the end of it, a tangible object that you are going to enjoy and feel better about because you made and you kind of know the provenance of. Number 3, I guess another digital minimalism cliche maybe, but chess. I am terrible at chess. I'm not going to share my ELO because it's low, but I feel like I am improving. I have been enjoying watching some videos and reading some books about chess, learning about the notation and learning about the different kind of techniques to use, the different stages of the game and what to do in certain situations. It's really nice to sometimes just read or watch something and then immediately go and play some games on like chess.com or lichess or whatever you want to use and put those ideas into practice. It definitely helps to improve your focus, because you might be having to focus quite intently for 10 minutes on one thing, 15 minutes, however long you kind of want to make a game last. It helps you definitely with your strategic thinking. I kind of assume this was a bit of a cliche and a bit of self-aggrandizement from people who play chess, but genuinely, weirdly, I find myself thinking about chess in a lot of non-chess related moments. I think about it in my work day, and I think about the kind of strategies that you use in chess and how those apply to my job. So that's been a really interesting process. Number 4 is to catch up on things. For me, the last kind of stage of living intentionally with my phone was to get rid of news apps. When I had got to the stage where I was no longer looking at social media on my phone, I found that I was still getting it out, unlocking it, and immediately opening BBC News or the local newspaper or the New York Times or whatever it was, and I was scrolling through those news apps like they were social media. I'm barely even processing or imbibing what I have been looking at. I read a book recently. It's called How to Stop Reading the News. I think that's what it was called. It was argumentative. It was a polemic. I didn't agree with everything it had to say, but I did adjust my relationship with the news based on it. So I got rid of those apps on my phone. It was the last stage in making my phone truly boring. And I now put aside a little bit of time to catch up every day, maybe twice a day, maybe in the morning and the evening. I look at a few different news websites. I check what the weather's going to be doing tomorrow. I look at some more kind of niche websites to catch up on what's happening with, say, for example, like AI or architecture and planning, things that I'm interested in. And then I stop. Sometimes at the weekend, or if I'm going on a long journey, I buy a newspaper, like a quality newspaper. I might buy a magazine like The Economist, and I will quite often like cut out articles from that to put into my scrapbook. And it just allows me to have a bit of a healthier relationship to the news. I don't need to be constantly abreast of everything that's happening. As I discovered the other day when the Prime Minister resigned, I'm going to find out anyway. I don't need the notification. I don't need to be constantly checking the news app. Someone's going to come and tell you within 5 minutes, oh my goodness, did you hear this has happened? So that anxiety that I felt initially about being disconnected from the news, like, it doesn't really last. And ultimately, like, what impact does any of the news actually have on my day-to-day life? Pretty minimal. Local news more so. It's better for me to learn about like what restaurant is opening in my city than it is to spend a lot of time feeling very anxious about things that are happening that I can't really do anything about. Number 5 is journal. I don't actually like that verb. It brings up certain images in my head of just a slight kind of self-obsession, like I'm so important that I need to be constantly writing my thoughts down. That not quite how I feel about it. I don't really call it a journal in my head. I call it a daily note. I have it here. It is a little field notes notebook that I keep. That's something that I'm using to record things. I just kind of write like a very brief note about what I've been up to. At the moment, I'm kind of recording my meals because I'm trying to be more conscious of what I'm eating. I might write down what the weather is like, what kind of natural things I've seen, particularly on my way to and from work, if I've bought anything that day, or I want to think more deeply about anything I've heard or seen or read, then it all goes in here. And then I go through about one field notes notebook a month. I collect them all up, put a little Dymo label on them, collect them all up in a little archive box, and I feel really proud of myself because I occasionally write about my feelings, I guess, but mostly I'm just keeping a record of a life that I feel pretty content with at the moment, a life I'm pretty happy with. Number 6 is play a sport. 5 years ago, you wouldn't have caught me dead recommending to play a sport, but then just after COVID, I began playing rugby again. I played for an LGBT inclusive rugby team in London. I now play for an inclusive rugby team here in Norfolk, and it has been transformational for my health to just kind of get out and do something every week for 2 hours that requires like a basic level of cardio fitness, but transformational for my social life as well, and just for a general sense of like working towards something that is not explicitly related to my job and giving me a sense that I can get better at things as well. Like I switched the kind of rugby I play, so I no longer play contact union rugby, I play touch rugby. It's been a big adjustment for me, but it's given me something to work on, new tactics to learn, new skills. I'm really enjoying it. So if you've never tried it, then it's worth trying. Team sports will give you that social element, whereas like independent or I guess individual sports will give you something goal-oriented to work on. Number 7 is exercise. I am on a journey at the moment. I am thinking really intentionally about what I'm eating and how I'm moving my body and how often I'm doing that. I've been going to the gym for quite a long time. I go through periods, particularly where I'm ill, where I don't go, but I always feel better when I'm going on a regular basis, like 2 or 3 times a week. I like to learn about the different muscle movements and what exercises I should be doing to build muscle in different areas. So that's been quite a long-standing thing, and I definitely recommend, if you've never been to the gym, watching some videos and learning the basics before you go so you can feel more comfortable. But recently, I've actually started running, which is, pretty remarkable. I obviously have some cardio fitness from playing rugby, but it's more that I hate running, or I hated running, I would think about like running for the bus and just being completely out of breath and feeling utterly miserable. But actually, the thing I had to learn was pace, and to pace myself and not to go 1,000 miles an hour. In the last kind of week or so, I've been doing 2 5k runs a week, so I've been doing that for a little while now. I have found some really interesting routes. I like to run along the dunes in Great Yarmouth where I work. I like to run along the river here in Norwich. I went for a run around the docks in London recently when I was there for a conference. So it just is a really good excuse to get outside. And honestly, I don't think there's many things you can do that are probably better for your overall health and fitness than developing a running habit. It might not be for you. I'm not going to lie and tell you that at every point in my life I've been a really avid runner, but it's something that I'm enjoying and something that I hope to get better at. And I can already see my pace improving from a really, really dreadful, embarrassing starting point that I'm not even going to share. Number 8 for me is to tidy or curate something. So tidying, a bit like cooking and reading, there's like an inherently human pleasure to tidying things. I'm not a naturally tidy person. I'm not like a naturally untidy person, but I like to put things in piles and consider that to be a form of tidying. But just the last few months, I've spent quite a lot of time organising my living space, making sure I know where things are, building new furniture, making my shelves tidier, and it's been a really cathartic, enjoyable process. When I get home from work now, I feel like I am much more relaxed. I feel like I'm much more content. When I think, I need my label maker, I know where it is. When I think I need a certain pair of scissors, I know where they are. I need my suntan lotion. I know where that is. It's with, all of my other toiletry. Number 9 is photo albums. So that's what all these are behind me. I take thousands of photos. Let's have a look. So I take thousands of photos. It is a sort of almost compulsion that I snap a photo. I've talked before in one of my videos about trying to kind of, I know I'm using the word intentional a lot, trying to be more purposeful in taking photos and using words instead of photos. Like I do that, but ultimately it's hundreds of photos a month that I take. However, I have begun to think really carefully about kind of what I'm doing with my photos. So when I go on a trip, I am printing out photos from that trip and I'm putting them into these photo albums. It's actually something I've been doing for quite a long time now. As you can see, this is quite a lot of trips. It was surprisingly difficult to find the albums. Like if you want these little albums, I think I probably got these from Amazon. The black ones behind me I got from a store that doesn't even exist anymore called Wilkinson. But I also keep in here, so I label them with my Dymo label maker, and then I keep little elements from my trip, like tickets and stubs and stuff like that. And then I think carefully about kind of creating combinations of photos that work well. That's really enjoyable. Putting the photos in here is really satisfying. It's really nice to just come in here and pick up an album and look back through a trip. This is when I went to Bratislava in Slovakia, and I went to Chisinau in Moldova, and I had a really great trip there a few months ago, and like these photos would just have been sort of languishing on my phone, but now they're here, and I can always look at places I've been that I'm going to go again. I like to go to Yerevan in Armenia. I've been there a few times, and this is I think this is my first trip to Yerevan. I've got my stamp there with Mount Ararat on it. And before I went again, I looked through this and remembered some of the really great memories I had with my friend who lives there, and thought about some places that I would like to visit again and things I'd like to see and eat and do there. So yeah, it was a really nice little memento, and I'm a big advocate for creating physical photo albums. Really, really big advocate. Number 10 is slightly counterintuitive, given that I'm talking about adjusting your relationship with screen time. But you know what? Just watch something. It is okay to watch things. Like, being a digital minimalist doesn't mean you're an ascetic. It doesn't mean that you need to give up all of your screen time. Like, I'm really pleased with where I'm at on my phone. a lot of days my screen time, like when you discount the fact that Apple weirdly counts kind of when you use Audible in your car as screen time, like my screen time actually shakes out to be like 6 to 10 minutes most days on my phone these days. However, like I still spend time when I get home from work watching videos on YouTube. Now I've adjusted like how videos play on my computer so that well, certainly they don't autoplay, they never have, but the suggestions bar is gone, the like suggestions at the end of the video is gone, the comments are gone. I just kind of go to my subscriptions, sometimes to the homepage, find an interesting video, and then the kind of big step for me with YouTube has just been to like watch a video and then do something else, which, you know, is really good. However, there's like really good stuff out there. If you're not being mindless, you can curate your YouTube to be a really good collection of interesting videos by different people. There are obviously high quality TV shows out there that you can find. I'm more of a fan of like buying DVDs these days, rather than subscribing to streaming services, because I feel like I want to own the media that I access. And films, I always felt like I never had the attention span to enjoy films. I would sit there with my phone in my hand and then like be dividing my attention between the two. But I've enjoyed watching films a lot more. I've watched quite a lot of Soviet films recently. I'm learning Russian, so it's really helpful for me to watch things in Russian, and going to the cinema. Like, I guess it's like the biggest screen time you can do, right? But it's not really screen time because you're not engaging with things that are constantly shifting your attention. It is focus on one thing, and it's air conditioned and there's nice food to be had. So a trip to the cinema is a really good way to adjust your relationship with technology, because you really shouldn't be getting your phone out when you're at the cinema. Speaking of Russian, number 11 is to learn a language, or at least learn something that is hard. This is kind of, Cal Newport in his podcast talks about the idea of like cognitive fitness. He argues that we had this aerobic fitness revolution in the 1970s and 80s, that people became really concerned about their health because we'd all been living these quite sedentary lifestyles, something that's really only got worse. Now we're living like a cognitively sedentary lifestyle where AI is beginning to take over some elements of thought for us, although obviously it's something that I'm trying to resist against, where a lot of things that we're doing don't require a huge amount of like active thinking. So what tasks can we bring into our life to ensure that we're retaining our like cognitive fitness and making sure that we have a brain that is sharp and able to retain important information and act decisively in moments that require decisiveness? So learning a language is really hard. I have a Russian tutor on Sunday. I am incredibly thankful for his patience with me, because I really don't think that I am a particularly good student of Russian. He is constantly correcting my pronunciation and stress on different words. It feels like if there's a 50-50 chance of pronouncing something correctly, then I have a 90-10 chance of pronouncing it incorrectly. However, it's also incredibly satisfying. And I had a playlist on in the car the other day, and one of the songs came on that was from kind of a collection of Russian songs that I listened to, and I was like, wow, I actually have made progress. I understand some of what is being said. I like to watch some Russian YouTubers. I like to engage in kind of reading the best I can some online articles in the kind of like anti-war space and stuff. So it's been really interesting. It also just gives you the ability to communicate with people. I had an amazing experience in a taxi in Moldova recently, where I had like the clunkiest conversation in the world with the taxi driver, explaining where I was from and the fact that I had never been to Russia. Yeah, I was learning the language so I could communicate with people in the former Soviet Union and things like that. So it was really rewarding, because I think it was probably the first time in my life where I've had I'm not going to say fluent conversation, but a comprehensible conversation in a different language. And I absolutely loved it. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to practice more. And then lastly, number 12. Okay, it is the cliche of all cliches in this space, and it is touch grass. It's go outside. Like, it's a meme for a reason, right? I don't want to make big sweeping generalizations about my generation, because I've met plenty of people who get enormous pleasure from going outside, myself included. Some days I get home from work, I slump down and I sit and I think I don't feel great, And increasingly, I just think I need to go for a walk. I need to either leave my phone behind, put it in my rucksack, and I need to take myself out. Like, if it's not absolutely freezing cold or like it is today, absolutely baking hot, going outside is a fantastic option. Sit outside if you have a garden or a balcony. Sit outside on a stoop. Sit outside on the edge of a pavement or a bench. Going outside in the rain is a great joy. Going outside when it is windy can be fun. It really, you don't need to wait for like the perfect weather, the perfect moment to go and do something really like I'm going outside, I'm going hiking. Like, it's fine to go for a short walk. It's fine to walk to the supermarket or cycle there instead of driving. It's totally okay to go for a run rather than running on the treadmill. Like, all of these things are really good. I think that one thing I'm trying to notice more is like seasonality and the change in things, and so that's where my daily note comes in. I'm recording the differences that I see, and I can compare them year on year, which will be really nice. So yeah, I guess those are my 12 suggestions. Just to kind of summarize them for you: read, cook, play chess, catch up on the news, journal, play a sport, exercise, tidy and curate, make photo albums, watch something, learn a language, and go outside. Those are my top 12 things for what to do when you're not doom scrolling. It's been a pleasure to talk to you as always. Please, do the usual YouTuber things of liking and subscribing if that's your bag. I'm really looking forward to speaking to you in the future, and I hope you found this useful. If you did, drop a comment. I'd love to hear what you're going to take away from this and what you're planning to do now that you're not doom scrolling. Well done. Good for you. Speak to you later. Bye.